Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I am back again today doing another video. And the subject of today's video is going to be why the Minnesota Timberwolves are basically just playing terribly this season. If you're not aware, the Timberwolves have been having a really bad year. They were 15 and 33. I don't know if people necessarily expected them to be that good, but people definitely expected them to at least be around a 500 team, like, having a record of like 20 and 20 or something like that at this point in the season, and instead they're at 15 and 33. Um, and so basically, in today's video, I'm going to be going through why the Timberwolves have been struggling a lot. Uh, and some of it historical reasons, some of it current reasons, and we'll get into it. So number one, first and foremost, I think one of the more obvious reasons has been the Towns injury. Karl Anthony Towns has played in only 30 of the, I believe it's 48 Timberwolves games this year. Um, he's it's either that or he's missed about 16 to 18 games, and the Timberwolves struggled in his absence. They really started sliding downward at that point. They've continued to play badly with him, but definitely I think him getting injured and missing over a month of basketball definitely damaged their chances overall of keeping up their around 500 pace. Um, so yeah, that's definitely the first thing is that when you are missing your best player and by far your best player, you're going to naturally struggle with guys like Wiggins and Covington having to carry a lot more of the load on offense than they originally or normally are expected to, along with like periphery players like um, Culver and Okogie and Shabazz Napier having to step up a lot more than they normally would. So that's the reason number one is that their best player missed about a month of the season. That I think is the obvious, straightforward one. And now these next four reasons I have five reasons total. Two of them are kind of clumped into one category, and then the other two are kind of clumped into one category. So the first two I'm going to tackle are I'm going to consider front office moves. So first of all, the uh, it actually goes back to the offseason of 2017. And the Timberwolves basically made a lot of bad signings that summer that have only now started catching up to the team. And it's three pivotal signings that changed the course of the team. Number one, they extended Gorgui Dieng. Gorgui Dieng at the time was a restricted free agent coming off of his rookie salary. He didn't really get that many offers from around the league, but he was starting for the Wolves and he had improved a good amount from his like every season he had been in the league, and the Wolves were liking his progress, so they gave him a really big deal. It was, I believe, um, a 4-year contract for 60 million around that, or a 4-year contract for like 62. He's making season to season. He's been making between 15 to 16 million. I think like the first 2 years it was 15, and now these last 2 years it's been 16. And the Wolves also had a lot of extra money because of the huge salary cap jump that had happened the offseason before. And their best players were still on the rookie deals, so they had a lot of cash to deal with. But this was definitely a huge mistake. Gorgui Dieng has proved that he's much more of a fringe fill-in starter, or more primarily a backup rather than being a consistent starter for this team. Um, he's a good player. When he gets starters minutes, he averages like 12 points, 10 rebounds, like that. But even still, that doesn't warrant making like $16 million a year. He really should be making more around like $8 million or 7 a year. Um, and it doesn't sound like a huge difference. Like, oh, what's the difference between 8 million and 15 million? It's seven. That is like a decent role player that you could be signing for those $7 million. So it actually is a pretty big difference. Besides him, they signed uh, they signed Wiggins to a huge extension. He was still on his rookie contract and he was going to be for another season, but they wanted to lock him up ahead of time. Now, this to me was a big mistake because I think that you could have let Wiggins play out. He was going to be a restricted free agent, so you could keep him no matter what. Even if he got a max offer elsewhere, you could match it. The Wolves gave him the max extension they could give him, which I think allots him making about $30 million a year for 5 seasons from 2018 to 2023. They could have just waited for another team to give him that offer rather than being so proactive and giving it to him themselves. I think that they really should have made Wiggins prove it, because I don't think that he would have gotten a max offer elsewhere. His play certainly hasn't warranted a max offer from any team. And basically, they ham they they limited themselves in signing him to that huge of a deal, because now they're stuck paying him $30+ million over the next 3 seasons after this one, and it really limits a lot of their flexibility. And then lastly, the move that I didn't think made much sense was signing Jeff Teague to a 3-year deal where he's making 19 million annually. Like, yes, Jeff Teague is a good player. Yes, you had some spare money, but you could have easily signed him for like 14 million a year, saved 5 million, and then combined what you saved between that and if you would have signed Jang to a lesser deal. Like, if you would have signed Jang to 8 million and Teague to 14 million, you could have taken the savings of that, which would have been like 13 million, and signed another quality rotation player. But instead, they thought that they had to sign Teague to a bigger deal to lure him to a smaller market. At that pace, I would have just let him go to another team if he was really going to cost 19 million, or I would have negotiated down from that. Um, and so those 3 deals have really significantly limited them this season, in that they really couldn't make any moves going into the offseason after last season ended, because um, they owed a lot of money to Towns, Wiggins, Teague, and Jang, so they didn't have much flexibility whatsoever. So that's the first clump of moves. The second is the Butler trade. The Butler trade was good at the time, and at the time he was worth Markkanen, Levine, and Dunn. And I think the thing that they really botched is when they traded him, they didn't get much in return for him. They got Covington and they got Saric, and those guys were good at the time, but then they flipped Saric for Culver, and Culver's basically been playing awful this year. He's shooting like 38% from the field and like 28% from three. And so basically what they got in return for Levine, Markkanen, and Dunn was Covington and basically a rookie who's playing awful. Um, so like the Butler trade itself was not bad when they got him, but when they were forced to trade him, their return was, I mean, Covington's a good solid player, but he's not worth Butler. But essentially at this point, they've traded Butler for Covington, and so in essence, they've traded Markkanen, Levine, and Chris Dunn for Covington, which he's a decent player, but he's not worth all that. And so they gave up a lot of their assets, and the trades that they've made with those assets have really just flamed out. So those are the transactions that have not worked well. And then now for the last part, which is the 2 coaching portions of this. So number one, I think Ryan Saunders really mismanages his rotations, in that he could trot out like a lineup of, let's say, Jang at center, Towns at center slash power forward, Covington, Wiggins, and Teague before they traded Teague, and that would have been a really solid NBA quality starting lineup and could have done pretty well. You'd have some decent defense in Jang down low. You'd have 3-point shooting in Covington and Towns, and some decent 3-point shooting in Wiggins and Teague. And even Jang, actually, he's shooting like 38% from three this year, so that's pretty good. So that would have been a really solid lineup, but instead, or you also could have been rotating in guys like Jordan Bell, who's won 2 championships. You could have thrown in there Noah Vonleh more often, who's a decent power forward. Um, and Okogie a lot more, and Culver. In my opinion, that should be like the 9-man rotation for this team. Obviously now they've traded Teague, so Shabazz has stepped in his place, but sub in Shabazz for Teague, and that should be your 9-man rotation in my opinion. But instead, the Wolves or Ryan Saunders, I should say, he really wanted to play a lot of Bates Diop, Keita Bates Diop, Keelan Martin. Um, let's see here, who else does he like a lot? He really likes Jordan McLaughlin, who's not a very good player whatsoever. He also plays Naz Reid sometimes, who is a really rough around the edges rookie. Um, and there's one more player I'm forgetting, but oh well. Oh, Travion Graham before they traded him. So yeah, they were starting Travion Graham and playing him like something like 25 minutes a night, and to me he should be in the D League right now. Same with Keelan Martin and same with Keita Bates-Diop. None of those guys should be getting major rotation minutes in the NBA. But before Graham was traded, he was playing like 25 minutes a night. Bates-Diop is currently and has all season been playing like 20 minutes a night, and Keelan Martin plays like 18 minutes a night. Those guys should not be playing at all, in my opinion. You should be having a consistent 9-man rotation right now of starters being um, Shabazz, Wiggins, Covington, Towns, Jang, and then off the bench you can have Okogie, Jarrett Culver, um, Bell, and Vonleh, because those are your guys who are NBA caliber, NBA talented. They have experience. Everybody there's been to the playoffs. You have guys like Jordan Bell, who's been far in the playoffs. He's won titles. Noah Vonleh, he's not the greatest, but as a backup power forward or center, he's pretty decent. And Okogie and Jarrett Culver are young enough and athletic enough to warrant them getting playing time, unlike um, like they're both way more athletic, I'd say, than Bates-Diop or Keelan Martin. And it's perplexing to me why he plays those guys so much. I think it's because they're athletic and he wants to play up and down and play fast. But that really gets into my last point here, which is that if you're going to play all those guys like that, Ryan Saunders should not, last point here, he should not be playing a 3-point centric style game. The Wolves shoot a ton of threes. They're third in the league in 3-point attempts, and they're like 29th in in 3-point field goal percentage. I think they shoot like 32% from three, and that's 29th in the league, yet they shoot the third most 3-pointers in the league. Let me run some stats by you here. Keelan Martin, he's shooting like 20 or 29% from three. Bates-Diop 33%. That's okay. When Travion Graham was on the team, he was shooting 24% from three. Pretty awful. Wiggins is shooting 33%, so that's okay for him. Towns is shooting 41. That's really good, but he is only one player. Besides him, they've got Shabazz who's shooting 30%. Jarrett Culver shooting 28%. Covington shooting well, but really you have all these dudes jacking up threes who are around or under 30% from three. Oh, I forgot to mention Okogie. He's like 30% as well. So besides Towns, who shoots really well from three, and Covington, who shoots really well, and Jang, but Jang only shoots like 1 to 2 threes a game. But you take every other player on the team, and they're below average from three, yet we're jacking up the third most threes in the league. Ryan Saunders, if you're going to play Bates-Diop, if you're going to play Keelan Martin, if you're going to play Shabazz Napier, don't instruct them, take them aside in practice, or announce to the whole team in practice, do not be taking threes. You guys are awful 3-point shooters. Stop shooting threes. If you're going to play this rotation where you want all these young athletic guys out there, you should be taking almost all your shots in the paint. You should not be shooting from the outside. And I think that honestly stems from a worse position of Saunders lacks a creativity to draw up plays that get them opportunities in the paint. So a lot of times the team settles for threes. So those are my reasons why the Wolves are failing this year, guys. It stems down to 5 points. To me, number one, the Towns injury really hurt them when they were playing okay earlier in the year. Number two, they made a series of terrible signings in the offseason of 2017 that have caught up to them now. Number three, they basically got very little back for the Jimmy Butler trade in retrospect, so they cashed in a lot of their assets and didn't get much back. Number four, Saunders plays very befuddling rotations where he picks really young, inexperienced, bad players over veterans who have better experience and are more skilled. And number five, he plays a style that completely clashes with the team's makeup. He shoots tons of threes when this is really an athletic, scoring in the paint kind of team. There you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below and have a good day. Bye.